You're watching CBS 5. Now, Eyewitness News.
Good morning, I'm Sue Kwan.
I'm Bill Scheckner. It is 7 o'clock. It is Saturday morning. It is the 29th of January. You probably knew all of that, huh?
So you think you deserve a raise, and you think you can get one? Up next, our career expert, Dr. Greg Ketchum, has some tips on getting some extra money out of your boss. It is one of the most important and toughest things an employee does. Walks into the boss's office and asks for more money. What's the best way to get that pay raise? Our career expert, Dr. Greg Ketchum, is here with some advice. And the first thing right out of the chute is you can make mistakes. So
well, you absolutely can. And you know, I thought with the turning of the new year, Sue, it's time to look at those things that people tend to procrastinate about, and asking for a raise is one of those things. And there's some common mistakes that you want to avoid. Well, number one is you want to not assume that the boss knows the worth that you bring to the job, because they may not be aware of everything that you do. Number two, you never want to threaten to quit, take this job and shove it, unless you get the raise, unless you're prepared to do that. And number three, you don't want to assume that getting a raise is a right of yours or part of how work is done.
So how do you get this raise?
Well, let's talk about three key success factors here. Number one is you have to know your worth going in. You have to do a little bit of research, go on something like salary.com or even in the classified ads to look at the range of salary for comparable experience and positions to yours. Number two, you have to know what you want and know what you're willing to settle for. Also, don't just think about cash or the money. Think about perks like time off, extra vacation time, maybe a flex time schedule, something like that. And number three, timing is everything. You don't want to ask for a raise during a downturn, when your unit hasn't made their numbers, when the boss is in a bad mood, or when you're just coming off of a series of big mistakes yourself. That's not a good time to be asking for a raise.
So do you actually go in there with these types of things written down, like a proposal form, or do you not want to put things in writing?
Well, absolutely you do. I think in writing is best because it gives you something to leave with the boss for him or her to think about. So if we talk about action steps in terms of actually having the conversation, number one, you got to prepare to sell yourself. As you say, you want to write down a list of your accomplishments, write down the salary research you've had, think about additional projects you might want to do in the future, and you want to have that all as a little package when you go into the boss. Number two, you want to know your boss. You want to know their style. How do they like to get information? Do they like to get something in writing first? Have a chance to think about it? Is it better to sit down and just talk right off the bat? You want to know those kinds of things, and what kind of objections that they might come up with. You got to think about that beforehand. And number three, you want to manage the conversation, and what that means is that you go in, you make your case, you present your written documentation, you have fallback positions, you get ready for a no. If you're getting negative signals right off the bat, then you might want to ask the boss, okay, well then what are the marks that I have to hit over the next 6 months in order to get a raise? Or if that's not the case, then what kind of career development opportunities are there for me here?
Very proactive. And finally, what happens if they say no?
Well, if all else fails and you just get a hard stop no, and this is kind of childish, but you might want to super glue the drawers on their desk shut. That's one thing. Actually, you want to leave the information with them, ask them to take a couple of days and think about it, and then get back together 2 days later.
And maybe they'll be having a better day. Now, for more information on career advice, viewers can go to CBS5.com, go to Weekend Early Edition, and click on your career advice.
That's right.
Thank you very much, Dr. Greg Ketchum, for being here.